What is up, fight fans? This is DJC Combat, and this weekend goes down the first pay-per-view of 2023, UFC 283 in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. Very solid main card, and today I want to give my breakdown and prediction for all 5 fights on this main card. A lot of good fights. We got the vacant light heavyweight title fight between Texeira and Hill, and then of course the highly anticipated co-main event, the first quadrilogy in UFC history between the assassin baby Brandon Moreno and Deivison Figueiredo, the flyweight championship. Gilbert Burns is back, and he's taking on Magny. Andrade returns to the flyweight division to take on Lauren Murphy. And to kick off the main card, we got Johnny Walker versus Paul Craig, and I'm going to start with that fight. I'm just going to start by saying right away, this matchup heavily favors Johnny Walker. As long as he plays it smart here, all he has to do is just keep it on the feet and stay off the ground. He's got so many advantages over Paul Craig in terms of strength, athleticism, power, striking, and he's got very good takedown defense, and Craig doesn't really have the strongest takedowns. His wrestling game isn't that good, and his ways of getting his opponents to the ground is like pulling guard. But with Walker's clinch strength, it's going to be tough to pull guard on Walker, and if, Walker does end up in Paul Craig's guard, as long as Walker is smart enough to stand back up and not stay on the ground with him like Jamahal, he should be good, and I think he should comfortably pick apart Paul Craig on the feet. Craig is a one-trick pony. He has one way to win this fight, which is very unlikely. I don't see him taking down Johnny Walker and submitting him. He will only win this fight if Johnny Walker fights dumb and decides to play jiu-jitsu with him, because obviously that's where Craig is better. But Craig really has no chance on the feet. He doesn't have enough power to hurt Johnny Walker. And Johnny Walker is overall the better striker. So Walker doesn't really have to worry about being cautious. He doesn't really have to worry about any power coming back from Paul Craig. I don't see Craig hurting him in any of the exchanges. And like I said, Walker is a much better striker, and he'll win as long as they're standing, which I think this fight will mainly take place in the stand-up, which ultimately is why I'm picking Walker to win this fight, and I see Walker winning by knockout. I just don't think Paul Craig is all that. I mean, he beat Jamahal and he beat Ankalaev somehow, but he beat Hill based off Hill, being dumb in there by staying on the ground with him, and Ankalaev not holding on to like the final bell, because he would have won a clear dominant decision if he didn't tap. So again, Walker just can't make too many mistakes. He just has to keep it standing, which shouldn't be too hard. And I say Walker handily beats Paul Craig, destroys Paul Craig, and finishes Paul Craig. Now moving up the card in the women's flyweight division, we got Jessica Andrade versus Lauren Murphy. Jessica Andrade is one of the best fighters in the world in women's MMA across multiple different weight classes, from women's bantamweight to women's flyweight and women's strawweight, former strawweight champion. And I don't think Murphy really does well against championship caliber opponents. I know she beat Miesha Tate, but Miesha Tate is past her prime and, isn't really good at flyweight anyway. Andrade is good in any weight class, including flyweight, where she is going to be at her most dangerous. I think at bantamweight, she's the most dangerous, actually. But in women's flyweight, she's more dangerous than she is at strawweight. She's even more stronger, and she hits even harder. And Andrade is a tank with non-stop pressure. And I just don't think Lauren Murphy is going to be able to do much to Andrade. She might be able to land some good shots. She's got decent boxing. She's got good takedown defense. She's good in the clinch, but Andrade is better in the clinch. Andrade might be physically stronger, and she's got an overwhelming power advantage. And she relentlessly keeps coming forward. I don't think Murphy's going to be able to get her respect or avoid taking damage. I just think Andrade is going to be a bit much, and I think Murphy is one of the worst fighters in the women's flyweight division. She's really not amongst the elite of the elite, so I think this is a winnable fight for Andrade. So I see Jessica winning this fight relatively, I don't want to say easily, but yeah, I think she'll comfortably beat Lauren Murphy and probably stop Lauren Murphy or outgrind her to a decision. But one way or another, Jessica Andrade is winning this fight. All right, moving up the card in the welterweight division, Gilbert Dorino Burns versus Neil Magny. This is a horrible matchup for Neil Magny because Gilbert Burns is so much better than Neil Magny everywhere the fight goes, from striking to grappling, way better on the ground. He can take Neil Magny down if he wants to, but also he's so much more faster than Neil Magny, and he's got a huge power advantage, and everything he throws at Neil Magny, he's going to look to land with mean, fight-ending intentions, and I don't see Magny handling the power of Gilbert Burns. I think Burns will have no problem connecting on Neil Magny, and plus Gilbert Burns has some devastating leg kicks, which Magny has shown to struggle with in the past. I mean, RDA dropped him with a leg kick and then folded him on the ground, submitted him. I can see Gilbert Burns doing pretty much of the same thing that RDA did. And Magny is good, but only against a certain level of competition. Gilbert Burns is like amongst the elites of the elites at 170, with the best guys in the world. I mean, he had a close fight with Jamahal. Like, he's up there with the cream of the crop, like the Leon Edwards, the Usmans of the world, the Colbys of the world. I don't think Neil Magny beats that level of competition. So therefore, I just can't see him beating Gilbert Burns. I really don't see how he wins. I mean, is he just going to take Gilbert Burns down and take a risk of getting submitted on the ground? Nope. Can he just outstrike Gilbert Burns? Nope. I don't see him being like elusive enough to evade the power of Gilbert Burns. Magny can make himself tough to hit, and he does have a good jab, and Magny is good on the feet. He's got good volume, but I don't see his style. The way he beats other guys like Daniel Rodriguez, that's not going to work on Gilbert Burns. Gilbert Burns is no Daniel Rodriguez, and he's not no Robbie Lawler past his prime. Gilbert Burns is a different animal. Gilbert Burns is almost like a Hector Lombard who gave Magny lots of trouble. Even though Magny beat Lombard, still, I think he can do a lot of what Hector Lombard was doing, but without gassing and without Magny being able to come back and take over. I see Magny getting dropped in this fight and getting submitted on the ground. He doesn't really have many ways he can beat Burns. And if Burns struggles on the feet, Gilbert Burns can take him down if he wants to, like he did against Wonderboy. He could take Magny down and destroy him on the ground like Rakhmonov did. So I got Gilbert Burns winning this fight very dominantly, destroying Magny everywhere. And I think he wins by knockout or submission inside 2 rounds, or even in the first. I'll be very surprised if Neil Magny wins this fight, but anything can happen. I just don't see it. All right, moving on now into the co-main event of the evening, the flyweight championship of the world, the quadrilogy between Deivison, Deus da Guerra Figueiredo, and Brandon the Assassin Baby Moreno. Many people see these guys as like 1-1-1. The first fight was a draw. The second fight, Moreno handily won. Dominant performance, and then he submitted Figueiredo in the third. And this third fight, Deivison just barely won the third fight in a close decision that a lot of people believe Moreno should have won. And then the first fight was very close as well, but I had Deivison winning the first one. In my mind, I think he's 2-1 over Brandon Moreno, and the one time Moreno beat him was an off night for Figueiredo when he had a bad weight cut. But I think Deivison at his healthiest, at his best, is a tough matchup for Brandon Moreno. And assuming we're going to see the best version of Deivison show up, Moreno is going to have his hands full, but then at the same time, Moreno is also a hard matchup for Figueiredo because he's got the durability to handle that power of Deivison Figueiredo, the durability and the cardio to last with Deivison throughout 5 rounds. And his boxing is better than Figueiredo's, and he's got better combinations than Figgy. He's more technical than Figgy, and he can grapple with Deivison Figueiredo. He can handle him on the ground without being submitted. And he can defend takedowns of Figueiredo, threaten takedowns against Figueiredo. Very hard fight for Deivison. These two are like each other's toughest matchups, which resulted in them both having close fights with each other twice. But I feel it's all going to end here, and I think this is the fight, the final fight between these two, where we will finally see a decisive ending, and we'll finally find out who is the better fighter between the two. Now, last time out, Deivison had a lot of success with the leg kicks against Brandon Moreno, which then opened up the hands for Deivison. He was able to land more cleanly and effectively on Moreno, slow Moreno down. And Figgy had a very good game plan from Henry Cejudo. He trained out a fight ready for this matchup. But now I think, Moreno has sort of learned a lot from that third fight. And I think he's going to be more prepared now for the leg kicks. He'll have addressed them. He'll be ready to fend off leg kicks, maybe even return leg kicks of his own in this fight, which will make it very interesting. Now the cat's out of the bag. There's no more surprises that Deivison, I believe, could bring to the table. I think both these guys, they know each other so well. It's going to be hard for either man to fully surprise each other in this fight. But both men, they've taken so much damage from one another. I feel like this one, it's bound to get a finish. I either see Figueiredo getting finished in this fight again, or this time, Brandon Moreno getting knocked out in this fight. He was close to getting knocked out last time. He got dropped in the third round, saved by the bell. But then he fought again recently against Kai Kara-France, where he took a lot of damage in that fight, especially the third round where Kai started coming back, gaining momentum. But then Moreno was able to finish him off with a body kick. But if Figueiredo starts swaying momentum and starts putting on the damage on Moreno, he's not going to go away that easily, and it could lead to an eventual Deivison-Figueiredo finish. And if anyone in this fight, I believe, can get a finish, I think it's Deivison-Figueiredo. He has the power to knock out Moreno, and I think each time that Moreno has been in there with Deivison, that durability just slowly but surely dwindles away. We saw that when he finally got dropped by Deivison-Figueiredo multiple times in that fight. I think this time, Deivison can finish the job with the power he has. You can only get cracked so many times until eventually your chin just doesn't hold up anymore. So I ultimately see Deivison winning this fight against Brandon Moreno. I just feel like that power advantage of Deivison, it's always been a factor for him every time they've fought, and it's always seemed to have given Deivison the edge, in all of their fights. In two or three of their fights, that power advantage, landing bigger, harder shots, having bigger moments with his power has always given him the edge. And I feel like it's just going to give him the edge in this fight as well. And if someone's going to fall first, I think it's going to be Brandon Moreno. I think he might fall to the power of Deivison this time. Deivison isn't only powerful, but he's fast, he's accurate, and he's got good timing on that right hand. He knows how to land at the perfect moment to get that finish. And I think this time he's not going to miss the opportunity to get the finish on Brandon Moreno. But I could easily be wrong. Moreno could win this fight. He's the younger guy. Deivison is getting older, and he's got a tough cut at the age of 35 at flyweight. So he might have a bad weight cut again. He might underperform again. And Brandon, who's got youth on his side, who might even out-adjust Deivison this time. Maybe this time he comes back and he handily wins the fourth fight. Very possible, but I'm going to stick with Deivison-Figueiredo. But I've gotten every fight of this series wrong. I picked Figgy the first time. It was a draw. Picked him the second fight. He got smoked. I picked Moreno in the third fight, and he lost. This time I'm picking Figueiredo. Let's see how it goes. Hopefully I get this one, but I won't be mad at the Assassin Baby winning. Who doesn't love Moreno? But I think we are going to hear, and still I think Deivison-Figueiredo wins in his home country of Brazil to defend his title. All right, moving on to the main event of the evening for the vacant 205 strap. Glover Texeira versus Jamahal Hill. A very dangerous fight for both men. The grappling and toughness of Glover and the experience of Glover makes him such a dangerous fight for Jamahal Hill, because Glover, he's been in these spots so many times. He's had so many championship fights, and he's also won the belt and he had a 5-round war against Yuri where he was looking good. He was winning until he got finished in the last minute of that fight. But he's got that experience. He's been there. He's done that. This is new territory for Jamahal Hill. But Jamahal Hill, that's what makes this fight interesting, the unknown. How will Jamahal Hill do in a big spotlight? And Jamahal Hill, I mean, he's dangerous for Glover with his striking, with his power and his accuracy and his combinations. When he lands, he's good at putting together accurate combinations to get a good, clean, technical finish. And we've seen Glover Teixeira get hurt so many times, but he's shown that, you know, he can recover, he can rally, he can come back and then get the finish. And that could very possibly happen in this fight against Jamahal Hill. Or Jamahal, he puts the hands on Glover. Glover gets hurt, but this time Glover does not come back. And Hill has a lot of power for the light heavyweight division. He hits harder than Yuri Prochazka. Yuri just hits you from angles where you don't see where the shots are coming from. That's how he usually gets the knockouts. Hill just has that raw power compared to Yuri Prochazka. And I think he hits harder than Blachowicz. I think he hits harder than Thiago Santos, who had Glover in a lot of trouble. And when Jamahal hits guys, they don't recover. They don't get back up. That's usually it. They usually go out before they hit the canvas. And we've seen Anthony Rumble Johnson, the last guy Glover fought that had sort of the touch of death, put Glover out like that. It took Gustafsson like 1,000 uppercuts over 5 rounds to finally get him out of there. So Glover, he is very tough. He's not an easy guy to put out. But if anyone could put Glover out cold with one shot, I think it's Jamahal Hill. And Jamahal Hill, he is the younger guy, the fresher guy. His only disadvantage is experience. He's lacking in experience. And he hasn't really fully set his foot in the top 5 of this division. He's only beaten Thiago Santos, but he didn't get a chance to fight Anthony Smith to further build his confidence against the top guys at 205. He's just shooting straight for the stars, and he's taking a leap of faith against a dangerous veteran and game veteran like Glover Teixeira. So this one is either going to be hit or miss for Jamahal Hill. He's got nothing to lose. If he loses this fight, I mean, he'll be back. Glover Teixeira kind of has a lot to lose because he's older. He knows he has to win, because if he doesn't win, he's done and no more title shots, and that means he should retire if he loses this fight at the wrong end of 43 years old. So lots at stake for Glover. Stylistically, he should be able to win because he's got the grappling, and, you know, Jamahal Hill, he got taken down 6 times by Thiago and he slowed down as the fight went on. Glover's got great cardio, so it should be interesting. If this fight does get out of the first round, then it might be all Glover Teixeira from there. And like I said, Glover is the better grappler. He has the takedown threat, and he's very heavy on top. And getting taken down by Glover is much different than getting taken down by Thiago Santos. If you get taken down by Glover, you're not getting back up. I mean, I know, you know, Yuri Prochazka did, but Yuri Prochazka's grappling was way better than we thought. And he had more time than Hill to prepare for the grappling of Glover. And, you know, Yuri's just strong and athletic and is just able to explode out of certain positions. I don't know if Jamahal Hill can do that. I think if he gets taken down, one takedown could determine this entire fight for Glover, just like one shot could determine this entire fight for Jamahal Hill, which makes it very interesting. But in Glover's last fight against Yuri, that was a war, and he took a lot of damage, a lot of big shots from Yuri Prochazka. And throughout Glover's entire career, he's been taking a lot of damage, getting rocked. He's been in so many wars. That's got to catch up to you at some point. And coming off the Yuri fight, he might not be the same. And he might come back very chinny, which is dangerous to go up against a guy like Jamahal Hill. So I'm going to take a big risk here. I'm going to go with Jamahal Hill to win. I could easily be wrong. I could easily see Glover going out there and showing him what's up, showing him levels. I could easily see Glover going out there, surviving the early storm, and then coming back with his grappling and getting a submission. That might happen, but I'm going to say that early Jamahal Hill is going to catch Glover Teixeira, because Glover can get very sloppy. His defense is not that good, and he leaves a lot of openings when he tries to get in the inside, when he tries to get in to work the clinch and his takedowns. He leaves openings to get caught. We saw this against Thiago Santos and many other guys. And I think Jamahal Hill can catch him, and it's going to have a different effect that Glover's used to. And I don't think Glover's chin is going to hold up well from the power of Jamahal Hill. And I think Jamahal, once he hurts him, he's going to put together clean, accurate combinations and get the finish against Glover Texeira. And I think Glover is going to stay down once he gets knocked down, and Jamahal Hill will rise to the occasion, make the most of this opportunity, and get the belt. But I could easily be wrong. This is Glover's last chance. He knows that. So we're going to see a very dangerous Glover Texeira going up against Jamahal Hill, which is why I'm so excited. But I'm going to pick Jamahal Hill to win this fight by first round knockout. Same way I picked Yuri Prochazka. But imagine this ends up being a 5-round war and then Jamahal stops him in the 5th round. But nah, if it goes past the first, Glover's winning. But I can see Jamahal ending it in the 1st round. I'm going to take that gamble and say Sweet Dreams puts Glover out and grabs that belt. But we shall see. But that's it for my breakdown and predictions for UFC 283. Let me know your picks in the comment section down below. If you're new, if you enjoyed the video, be sure to hit that subscribe button and tune in for the next one.